So let's talk about, has the war resumed in West Asia? Tensions once again that seems to have been escalated with the U.S. Central Command now launching a series of military strikes against Iranian targets in response to what it says were Iranian attacks on 3 commercial vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Now, reports suggest that the strikes were intended to impose heavy costs on Iran for targeting civilian crude commercial shipping in international waters, with Washington now also describing the attacks as an unjustified act of aggression and a violation of the recent ceasefire. Let's in the meantime get you an understanding what has now happened in the last 48 hours of this escalation zone once again being reported as the Strait of Hormuz has now turned again into a virtual battlefield. Now, what is being said on the 6th of July, a tanker that was hit near Lima in Oman, fire that also broke out on board the commercial tanker. Then it was a Qatar-based LNG tanker that was also reportedly struck by a drone, and Qatar has now been blaming and calling this to be as a violation of international law. Then on the 7th of July, we are looking at another third commercial that has been hit reportedly by a UAV and damage that was reported. However, what is now being said that there has been no casualties that have been reported in this latest strike. Then let's get you on the 8th of July, the update coming in as when it comes to US revoking Iranian oil sanctions waiver. And this is now coming in response to the strikes that has now been conducted, where the US has launched these retaliatory strikes on Iran. Several areas that have now been targeted that include defense, missile and drone launch sites within Iran, southern Iran, and early morning explosions that have also been reported in the Iranian port cities. Now, Tehran, meanwhile, has now threatened that there would be decisive measures in response in equal measure would be given from their side. Iran, which has now strongly condemned the US strikes in southern Iran, labeling them to be as a blatant act of aggression. And that has now taken place while the body of the late Supreme Leader was being hosted for the funeral procession in Iraq. Now, the Iranian president seems to have hurried back to Iran. And this seems to be in a statement that has now come in from the military, warning that the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran will also deliver a crushing response to the US actions. And this is now coming across as far as the Strait of Hormuz management here is concerned, because Iran wants a complete and total control, and the military now says that Iran will not allow any outside interference. Let's connect with Srinjoy on this. So Srinjoy, Strait of Hormuz still continues to be the bone of contention as far as both sides. US wanting it to be a free waterway as it is international waters, the situation to come back before the war, before the 28th of February. However, this Iranian side has been wanting complete control, especially when it comes to the management of the Strait of Hormuz.
Before the war, any ship could go through the Strait of Hormuz without any permission, without any toll, without any fee. Now, after the war, the Iranians say that, look, the Americans attacked us, the Americans hurt our country, there's been enormous damage to our installations, we need money to repair the damage, which is why the toll. At least that's the argument for the toll. The point is, this is not something the Americans like, particularly because their allies, the Qataris, the Arabians, Saudis, the Kuwaitis, none of them like the idea, because it's their oil that is going through the Strait of Hormuz. It's their LNG that's going through the Strait of Hormuz. And they don't want enormous tolls, enormous fees to be paid for each ship that is transiting, which is why there is this difference of opinion. And this may not be the only reason for the fighting, because the problems in the Lebanon continue to be what they were. There has been intermittent fighting for a while, and the Hezbollah have been attacking northern Israel. The Israelis have been hitting back. The Hezbollah has been moving towards the north, particularly their leaders towards Beirut. The Israelis have been attacking Beirut. Yes. So all of that has happened in the past, and this cannot be wished away. So as a result, these issues continue to hassle the negotiators, the experts who are sitting and trying to work this
The last thing
out.
that the world wants is resuming of tensions and escalation and the conflict once again in the West Asian region, because then there would be there would be leading to further complications. But let's in the meantime also talk about what the United States has done, because US has also revoked a general license that seems to have authorized the sale of Iranian oil, citing Tehran's alleged actions in the Strait of Hormuz to be completely unacceptable following the recent attacks on commercial tankers. Now, this move also comes after 3 tankers reportedly sustained damage from unidentified projectiles in and around the strategic waterway, and based on a report that is now coming in from the UK Maritime Trade Operations. So, Shinjoy, that seems to be, when it comes to the consequences of the Iranian strikes, the retaliatory strikes that has now been carried out by the United States, which also seeks, whatever has been granted to Iran as far as the peacetime measures are concerned can be also withdrawn by the US.
This is a worrying aspect because there are really 2 or 3 issues that result from this. One, the price of crude oil goes up in the world. Every barrel prices will go up. This will also affect America. This will affect America before the midterm elections. That's really one. And the consequences are there for the world to see. The second issue relates to the sale of Iranian oil. Now, yes, then Iran can't sell to many countries, including it would have been building up, and they are keen to build up.
Yeah.
So that oil, Iranian oil, even if there are sanctions, the rest of the world won't buy it.
Yes.
But 90% of it would go to China.
Yes, I mean, that has been the situation that had preceded even before the conflict. But it remains to be seen what exactly would be the markets and the trade and the sentiments that we are now looking at post these latest round of strikes that has now been carried out in the West Asian region. For the moment, thank you very much, Enjoy, for joining us here on the broadcast. But when we speak of just the West Asian tensions and the consequences and the implication is something that the world has to suffer. So let's talk about, when it comes to the Doha peace talks, because that has been frozen, the fragile truce there. Is it going to completely collapse? Because 60 days time that, remember, was given by the United States for Iran to completely accept the terms and conditions. The shipping disruptions are likely. Now the Strait of Hormuz chokehold that has now tightened. And again, when it comes to the disruption, we are going to see that in global oil markets. We are also going to see that in LNG prices that would go higher. That would also be impacted. Then when it comes to war risk insurance premiums, especially for the vessels, these are commercial tankers to say that are now coming under attack. That is also likely to go up. And the markets will also turn very volatile amid the fresh tensions. And the US-led naval presence in the area will also be a threat when it comes to the commercial traffic, moving in and around that very crucial waterway. That seems to be the concern on the international front that we are picking up.